us to have confidence in his judgment? He pardoned seditious conspiracy traitors. So you got your chance, and I'm going to have mine right now about this. What she's not going to do is do a false equivalency between January 6th and someone that was convicted of seditious conspiracy.
Let's jump into a spirited CNN debate discussing everything from January 6th, Trump, Musk, anything relevant to this administration. So be sure to like the video. It helps us out a ton. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll be back with the very much needed context.
It's also bad that Enrique Tarrio did this.
Right, then you made a false equivalency. There is no false. No, you got your chance, and I'm going to have mine right now about this. For the law enforcement officers who lost their careers, who almost lost their lives, who protected those ungrateful bastards that day that are now pardoned, like Enrico Tarrio, who was convicted of seditious conspiracy. He's the traitor. And anyone who defends what they did or tries to make a false equivalency, actually, they are traitors to this country and our Constitution. And every law enforcement officer that puts on the badge that defends our democracy. How dare you and anyone else that tries to make a false equivalency with people like the January 6 rioters who were pardoned by the same president you want us to have confidence in his judgment? He pardoned seditious conspiracy traitors.
So many snaps. She is so obviously correct here. And it's wild that MAGA, the party of law and order, the party of the police, is taking the anti-cop stance. Oh, because, you know, Trump overall, of course. But like, I'm pro defund the police. Like, the left is supposed to be anti-cop. I think the institution of police as it exists is just another prop of private capital, and they largely are unequipped to handle most calls that don't require you to just go in guns a-blazing. But goddamn, will I cheer on defending democracy no matter who it is doing it, which the cops at the Capitol that day did. Even when grossly outnumbered, they chose to put they chose to put the American experiment of a liberal democracy before their lives in some instances. Let's not forget that multiple officers died as a result of the injuries and such suffered on this day. Officers took their lives because of what they experienced on this day, when they could have chose to just walk away and let this insurrection happen. That is true patriotism, far more than any MAGA clown who defends January 6th or Trump's attempts to steal the election that led to the violence that led to these officers losing their lives. Anyone parroting this kind of nonsense about January 6th is anti-American and should never be taken serious about anything.
Listen, 85% of federal workers work outside of Washington, D.C. Those are people who work at our national parks. Those are people who work on, the ag departments in farm bureau states. Those are people who are taking care of Medicaid and processing payments for people in red states like where Donald Trump lives. So we need to stop being so cavalier, Scott, about people and whether they're working or not, and how come they're so upset about getting an email. Because these are people's livelihoods.
Because some are being cavalier.
You have the privilege of sitting here getting a six-figure paycheck from CNN.
And I have to show up every day. And I have to show up and earn it. And I have to show up and earn it.
As public servants, and they do the same.
And I have to show up.
And the fact that you assume that they don't is obnoxious and insulting to those people.
There is no evidence for any of these Republican claims. You'll be surprised to learn that the attack on bureaucracy is literally just another backdoor way Republicans created to go at social programs like Social Security or Medicaid by instead gutting the staff that handles them. So we're not targeting the programs, just the lazy bureaucrats. Then, because you're gutting the staff, they become inefficient. You can say inefficiency and then defund it down the line. That's literally the plan, where the cell is essentially convincing you that every federal employee is lazy with no proof of this. They have literally no proof of it. And to speak about them like faceless ghouls trying to steal your tax dollars while doing nothing, despite being accountable to their boss, who is appointed by someone who is democratically accountable with no outside power or leverage over anything in government or to assure their position or anything. But MAGA, in replacement of these hard-working middle-class Americans, want us to accept billionaires who paid hundreds of millions of dollars to gain access to this information, have direct conflicts of interest in looking over these agencies and information, and have leverage over Congress financially, whether it be primarying them or whatever. MAGA is so dumb at times it hurts. Like, nobody who can critically think is going to buy the nonsense. These people are so clearly the swamp, trying to expand the swamp. If you don't think that, you don't know what the swamp is, and you started saying it because the swamp was calling these people the swamp. It's like the way MAGA tries to copy leftist rhetoric and make it their own while also telling leftists that they're the dumb ones is just,
It's Democrats who look at this thing which was tame in comparison to what we see in America's big cities all the time. When police officers
what we're not going to do is do a false equivalency between January 6th and someone that was convicted of seditious conspiracy.
So you know that there could have been a period at the end of the first. You know there could have been a period at the end of the first part of your sentence. There's actually no reason to create another scenario about this.
It's comparing apples to apples.
I agree.
Democrats only care about the assaults on police when it happened on January 6th in front of the U.S. Capitol. If it happened on March 25th,
you don't have to make a comparison between that and something completely random.
Democrats don't give a fiddler's fart when it happens night after night in other.
Let's not use that word on the air.
I mean, the false equivalence is just annoying at this point. Republicans are literally the little brother who get caught stealing snacks, and instead of apologize and take accountability, they say, but my brother stole a cookie last week, in hopes that absolves them of having to take accountability. There is no equivalence between Black Lives Matter, which is what he's alluding to, and January 6th. First off, this idea that Democrats like cheer on or simp for the Black Lives Matter riots or wants them absolved or whatever is completely fabricated. Democrats had 4 years in office where if they thought these people were wrongly arrested and were defending them and all of this, they could have just pardoned them. Not a single person was pardoned from BLM during Biden's presidency. And by the way, this is Biden who went out of office doing very controversial pardons to his son, to the January 6th committee. Obviously, he would have done Black Lives Matter pardons if that was something he wanted to do. Literally is just a complete lie. And also, Democrats condemn Black Lives Matter 120 times the amount that Republicans have January 6th because we're made to. Every time January 6th comes up, Republicans are like, but Black Lives Matter. Like, who cares, buddy? Meanwhile, by the way, on January 6th, people were arrested for seditious conspiracy. This is what the right does. This is the difference in right-wing and left-wing political violence. This alone makes it no comparison. I don't think people understand how serious a charge seditious conspiracy is. And Trump pardoned the people who got it, by the way, because he doesn't value democracy or our government, or he doesn't, traitors or anything like that. But it literally just means people were premeditatedly planning to overthrow the government, which we know the peaceful transfer of power was successfully delayed, where thank God state officials didn't give in to Trump's demands, or he would have gotten his way. And yes, also, multiple cops died, billions of dollars in damage. I mean, it was literally one of the worst days in American history. Trying to compare that to a largely peaceful movement where agitators were swiftly arrested, and it was found most had no ties to left-wing movements, but tons actually to right-wing movements. And Democrats have never done apologia for those arrested on Black Lives Matter. They've given credence to the legitimacy of a movement like Black Lives Matter because, obviously. But what Democrat has ever been like, we have to let out the Black Lives Matter rioters? I would love literally 10 grand to any MAGA who can send me a link of any elected Democrat saying we need to release the Black Lives Matter protesters. That is a serious claim. If any MAGA can prove that, I will pay you. If not, then shut the fuck up about saying it. We're tired of hearing your lies.